first things when dealing with sellers, even when you're dealing with motivated sellers, is getting them really crystal clear on what their actual equity is. So, a lot of people think if my house is worth 500,000 and I owe 250,000 on it, then I have $250,000 worth of equity. And that's technically true. If you could sell it with no costs, sell it on your own, and you're not going to have any repairs or any things like that to do, but that's not the reality. Okay. And if you could get a full price offer on it. So one of the very first things you need to do is to kind of start talking in terms so that the seller, you start to break down their mindset of that $250,000 worth of equity, okay? And kind of show them what the reality is for what that equity truly is. So one of the things that I use in my conversations with sellers is a document like this, okay? So it's something that just sort of shows them and breaks down the numbers for them so that they can see what the reality is in a normal situation, okay? And again, I'm coming to them as an investor and trying to offer them a better deal, but in order to be able to still get a good deal, I have to get them on the terms of my brain, okay? So if they're thinking their equity is 250 and I'm thinking it's more like 180, somewhere in between there we have a disconnect, right? So one of the ways to get them to see the reality of those numbers is to start to show them things like this document, okay? So this document is basically, as you can see here, a formula for calculating win-win offers. And what I do is I complete this in front of them usually. I typed it here for you guys, so it would be a little easier for you to see on the camera, but usually I will do this in front of them and walk them through the basics. Now, it does require you to know what the numbers are in your area a little bit. You can't just make assumptions that these are going to be your numbers. And so you do kind of have to do a little bit of research to find out what your numbers are. But as an example, you can see here, let's say their list price, if they were to list their house today, it would be $825,000. On average, houses sell 3% below the list price. Now, this is nationwide, and this is over a long period of time. So if you're in a super hot market right now and your properties are selling for 1% above, then you wouldn't put the 3% below, okay? You would put the selling price as the actual list price, as an example, okay? Again, nationwide average real estate commissions 6%. Okay, so I've got that number in there as well. And then on average, selling closing costs, transfer costs, all those types of things, about 1%. So that's in there as well. And then you subtract other costs, which typically tend to be about 3%. Again, national average numbers here. And that would be anything from repairs, seller concessions. Right now with interest rates a bit higher, sellers are buying down interest rates for buyers. They're giving some sort of concessions. There might be home inspection issues, roof leak, things like that they end up negotiating, all that kind of stuff. So kind of just lumped that in there as a 3%, which put it at 10,000. So when you take all of that and subtract it from that initial number, then that gets you a net sale price of $734,235. And once you subtract their loan, okay, what they thought was their, equity was a substantially different amount. Okay, so now their equity is $196,235. So a lot different than what they thought when they thought they had basically at 825, they thought they had basically $300,000 worth of equity. Okay, so you can see that doing these kind of things in front of them helps them to get a little bit more clear about what it really costs to sell a house and what their true equity truly is. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to sell them minute one and your first discussion on these numbers. It's something you're going to kind of have to show them, kind of talk about it a little bit, help educate them on the reality of what it takes to get sold. And then you're going to kind of have to keep following up, right? You're going to have to keep having some conversations around that. If an article comes out in your community about, the cost of what it takes people to sell a house, then you want to make sure you forward that on to them. If you get some sort of market information that's showing, hey, sellers are getting 98% or 97% of list price right now on average, and something comes out in your market, then you want to forward that to them so that you're kind of starting to back up what you've told them with some credible information and some proof, if you will. Okay. So that's a little bit of the psychology about how you're going to get into a seller's head to help them get to the numbers where you are. So now if you're offering them, say, 180 for a quick sale, it's not such a big departure. But if you'd have come in with that, or 180 of their equity, if you would have come in with that initially, they might have been like, I have $300,000 worth of equity. Why are you only offering me 180,000? Once you show them this and you say, you know, your equity is 196, but I can buy this quick, take it off your hands, take over payments, whatever your proposal is, and I can get you 180,000. Now it's not such a huge discount, and it's not going to be immediately met with a no. Again, most deals are done in the process of follow-up after several follow-ups, not in that first initial offer. So make sure you're continually following up, sending them proof, sending them some documentation to help back up your numbers, and show them articles and things like that that might help that as well. Okay, hope that helps.